My name's Hamilton Lighthouser. I play with the Walkmen. We're at the Metro in Chicago, in Wrigleyville. And why am I on tour? I can't answer that right now. It's been incredibly fun, actually, yeah. We've had like nothing but good times so far. Actually, I don't think I owned that amp 10 years ago, but I always had Vibroluxes. It's always just been my size. That I traded with a dude from the Fleet Foxes. I think that was after the first round of the Walkman. That's a 1965 Fender Vibrolux Reverb, and it's in like pristine condition. And I think it cost like way more. Like I would have always bought one that was like ripped up and like, you know, like a player's amp, kind of like this guitar. But he, I guess, had the cheddar at the time to get a really, really good one, and then we did an elaborate trade with a couple guitars, and I ended up with like a perfect one. This is also 1965 Fender Telecaster. It's got all the original stuff, but it's been refinished. So I got a major discount. I bought it at the Philadelphia Guitar Show like 15 years ago, maybe more. They didn't make that many in 65, so it's kind of like a coveted model. It's got all the original electronics and stuff, and it's really amazing. It does. I actually just had my friend Jimmy Carbonetti, I got to give him a shout out because I know he's got a store on Reverb, set it up for me, and he did a better job than anybody else I've had a couple sort of high-end stores set it up, and he really did the best job. No, I don't use any pedals. When I play my solo stuff, I have a huge pedal spread, and that's because I play only acoustic guitars. And I play two that sound so wildly different from each other that I run a chain. I have like an A/B box that goes in, and then I turn off like 6 or 7 things to give the sound guy sort of an approximation, like volume and stuff that works. But yeah, I actually don't even use very much reverb anymore on the amp. I kind of like to be almost dry. I used to use a ton, but then I realized that that's because I just didn't really know what I was doing. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's because we got better at controlling the sound because maybe we didn't know what we were doing when we were younger. But there's something really fun about when it was all wild and crazy and everybody's on 10. I mean, I actually have a bunch of new guitars at home too. You know, actually, they don't sound, none of them sound like this. But they're just cool. It's like a collector thing if you're into that, you know. Yeah. Actually, what I'm really into collecting now is microphones. And I just watched the prices of those just go through the roof on Reverb. I just bought like 3 on Reverb recently, actually. I got 2 KU3As, RCA, and 44BX. I do all ribbon now, yeah. Because I just like have a sort of a harsh voice sometimes, and I just find that it's just a little bit more pleasing, especially if I'm just singing really loud.
I first saw you, I think you were playing a black on black Strat.
Black on black Jazzmaster. I want it back. That's a point of contention that was involved in that trade, and I want it back, but he won't give it back. Now he put a clear pickguard on it to sort of make it his own. And I write him like probably once every 3 months saying, give me back my fucking Jazzmaster.
This is a 1962 Jaguar. I bought it from Gary Dick, who runs Gary's Classic Guitars, who's a total jerk. Don't like him at all. And he sold me this. It's what's called a Selmer finish Jag. So that means that they were painted at the Selmer factory in London. Or maybe it's not London, but in the UK in 1962. So I think that maybe they shipped them all one certain color, and then the Selmer factory would paint them a different color for Fender. Pete gets confused by it. Pete comes over and plays the solo, and he thinks that it's a toy, like a ukulele. So he thinks it's an electric ukulele. But I'm not crazy about the way it records. It has a really sort of sharp attack and then dies quickly, but I like it live. And this one records better than that, or at least Ham's Telly records better than that. This is a 61 Telly, refinished also, and I haven't really toured with it, so I'm just learning how it works. This is the first time I've used it. That's a 65 Pro, that's a 65 Pro, but I've had that one in the Walkman for 20 years, and I've had that one for 3 days. So you can sort of see, it's easy to tell which is which. This is what happens to the Walkman and to their equipment.
Where's the Gretsch?
Sold it. It's been through 2 or 3 people. I've seen it online because it's one of a kind. It's an actual factory black Gretsch. It really is one of a kind. I think that maybe there's one other factory black from the 50s that literally belonged to Chet Atkins. I think he commissioned it. And I also have a Rickenbacker. I have a 59 Capri, which is a beautiful guitar. But without my permission, a repair guy refretted it. Ham broke, he knocked into, my guitar was knocked into the Rickenbacker. I'm not gonna name names.
You just named Hamilton.
I know I did. It was an accident though.
I was near the very precariously positioned Rickenbacker, which was leaning against an amp with no stand on a very crowded stage.
He's been very good about it. He's helped me a bunch since it happened. But so the headstock broke, and I took it to this guy in New York City, and he started to try to repair the headstock. And it's the same guy who refretted it without asking me. In the meantime, I was told he was the best guy in the country. So while he was working on the Rickenbacker and messing it up, unbeknownst to me, I also gave him the Gretsch to fix the fact that the inside of it was bowing. He refretted that as well. So he put jumbo frets on that Gretsch as well. I was too clueless to realize why it didn't feel right when I got it back. I didn't enjoy playing it as much. It's because I had these huge frets. It's very clunky, and it affected my opinion of the guitar. It wasn't the guitar's fault. And then I sold it. In retrospect, if I had undone the things that this guy did to it, I would have still enjoyed playing it. So my tone is essentially, I just go on and off with this. I go between about 4 and 7 here, and then I turn the reverb up and down, and that's all I do. Although I played it completely dry the other night, it sounds better.
Does it?
Yeah. So this whole time, all 25 years, I've just been making a mistake.
The guitar is a 1957 Gretsch Corvette, and yeah, I've probably owned it for 12 years, maybe, something like that. I got it sort of towards the end of the Walkman, but had it during the Walkman. Yeah, there's only been a few owners. The case had like the original owner's name and address in like Hawaii, and because it's like the original case, and she also had called it Elizabeth, like that was like the name printed on the guitar case, which I thought was sort of funny. I don't really think of it as that, but yeah, no, it's gender neutral guitar, yeah. But I love it. Yeah, it's my only electric guitar, I think. Yeah, currently anyway. That's a '68 Pro, and that is just a borrowed from a friend's Super for this store. Yeah, which is a new Super, but it's been like souped up by this lady Colleen, who seems to do a good job souping up the new amps. So I got this organ from this kid Desi, who has a reverb shop called Keyboard Corner, and it was just playing it through that, and I was like, oh, this actually sounds good for a new amp, and I needed a second amp, so that's how I ended up with that. Yeah, Mini Config is new. We've always had, I feel like since the very beginning of the Walkman, or maybe relatively early on, we've had a Fast 3, and probably this Fast 3 the whole time. It's held up. It's starting to really go down. Like, it spent years of just getting the shit kicked out of it, and it never had anything go wrong with it. And now it's definitely, like in Atlanta, had to get this guitar this guy from the Black Angels, you know what I mean? He was a repairman. He was there at this festival, and he actually turned the vibrato back on by running a guitar string through the contact and stuff, which is amazing. And but it's kind of in that state of like, there's guitar strings in here holding it together, you know. It's less solid than it used to be. I mean, this sounds more like an organ, and this sounds more like a vacuum cleaner or something, you know, but like in a positive way. I mean, they can make those same tones on each of them. They just sound, this one sounds more woolly or something, you know? A lot of reverb, yeah, a lot of reverb. I'd like to be really loud and turn the reverb all the way up. And otherwise, what are we doing here, you know? Yeah. We've had a lot of pianos over the years, yeah, and they've really lived hard lives. In fact, I was gluing the felt back on a bunch of keys today, and I have super glue all over my hands. Hey, look at that. Yeah, that one didn't work. All right, well, they're moving at least. I was afraid I glued the keys together. This one is Matt's that he had, which is great. It's like it's got help install piano pickups in it, but it's still a piano. It's still a piece of wood with a soundboard. I tune the piano every day. Yeah, I have the tuning hammer around here somewhere. The hard part is you got to get the hammer from the hammer guy, like the piano guys, and they don't necessarily want to part with the piano hammers for some reason. You know, like it's just supposed to be maybe in a guild or something like that, you know. When we've got that hammer, I remember the guy was like, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, go tune the piano, you know. And he was like, no, you can't do that, you know. Like, We're like, I think we can.
This is a 66 precision bass. Yeah, it's refinished, but it's refinished ages ago. I got it like 15 years ago, 13 years ago, I don't know, something like that. I had like a Vox, what's it called? A Panther, I think, the semi-holly one, like a Bill Wyman-y kind of one. And at the end of Walkman, I had like a Univox, a shitty little Univox that I loved. I think Paul has it actually, though he won't admit it. And I have a, what else did I used to have like a 55 precision bass that I traded. It had been routed, like a pickup had been routed into it at some point. So I traded that at some point for this. Yeah. I just fell in love with this thing. I was on a black and I just loved the finish. You know, the finish is basically unchanged. I think it's had the same strings on it since I bought it, actually. The guys at Fender, Jason Klein, thank you very much, gave us this thing. So we've been enjoying it thoroughly. It's loud as hell. I think we just like old stuff. I mean, like we like old music. I think I think a lot of the direct references we use when we write are old. It's very rarely something new. It's never something new. It's always like, you know, like Frank Sinatra or as late, you know, it's all old. So to us, everything we play sounds old style. So we're always very pleased when people say that when it doesn't sound whatever, like the Fugs or something like that.
I've had several kits, and I still do, but this was kind of one of my main Walkman kits. It's pretty old. It's from the 50s. It's a WFL Duco kit that I got in San Francisco, like in the early days of the Walkman. Honestly, I hadn't used it in years until we did the reunion and busted it back out. The Ludwig company, it turned into Ludwig, so it's William F. Ludwig. So it's called WFL until the late 50s. And they switched to Ludwig. So this drum actually didn't come with the kit. These old Duco kits often come with like a 15-inch little floor tom. And I wanted a bigger one, so I took this marching snare and converted it. And this is a 1959 Ludwig. This was like a huge marching snare, which I don't know why anyone would want a snare that big, but as a floor tom, it sounds great. And then the snare is a 60s Ludwig Superphonic. It's pretty classic. I generally lean towards old stuff. I do have a newer CNC kit. Back in the Walkman days, I would always use one Zildjian vintage 20-inch ride. And that, like, I went through tons of them because I would just crack them. But since then, I've started using this company, Istanbul Agop, and they are really awesome. So these are all Istanbul. And then these are the 30th anniversary 15-inch hi-hats, which really sound great.
How do you crack a cymbal?
You just keep hitting it really hard over and over again.